Hi, I'm Dan, and I just watched the Season 2 finale of Cloak and Dagger, entitled Level Up. I'm going to talk to you about that finale as well as the season as a whole now that we've wrapped up Season 2. Where am I at with Cloak and Dagger? What do I think of the series as a whole? I thought it was a really solid finale. I think it was better than last year's finale. I think that it was a good way of sort of wrapping the season up in all of its themes and we had some solid action, great character moments, everything sort of worked well. I'd say the only thing that was sort of lacking is I felt like this wasn't a great episode necessarily for Andre, who overall I thought was actually a really solid villain this year. I think the actor is strong. I think his backstory was interesting. I think that he was a really good villain for this particular show, and that his powers were more sort of cerebral than like directly physical. He tied in well with all the sort of mystical voodoo stuff going on this season and throughout the series. I think that he was a really solid villain, but I felt like what really made him work was how unique he was with the record store and that visual stuff, the symbolism there I thought was great. And I found him really scary earlier on in the season. So I feel like one of the failings a little bit of this finale is that it was so focused on Cloak and Dagger and their sort of internal strife that he never felt quite as scary as he honestly had earlier, and now he was supposed to be more powerful than ever. Sure, he put up a fight through like perfect Tyrone and Tandy's dad and all that stuff, and that was interesting, but I feel like overall, given that he was supposed to be at this like god status, he was defeated somewhat easily. That said, I do think that it was a great episode for both Tandy and Tyrone. Ending on the waffles, of course, was super cute. I'm glad to see them going off in the future and doing potentially their own thing on the road. We don't know exactly where things are going. I'm not a comic reader, I should say, so I don't know if they're hinting at a specific storyline. But I'm excited to see where they go off in the future and having it really be tied about them, because I think they're the thing and their connection and their chemistry is what makes the show work so well. I think the finale did a solid job of wrapping up everything that's sort of happened up to this point and then setting off on a fresh new start next season where, you know, both the characters themselves overcoming who they were and what their greatest issues were, but also all of these side characters. We close out Connor's, we close out Tyrone's parents, at least for now. Who knows what's going to go on with that in the future. We see that Tyrone really did make a difference in the drug trade in New Orleans. And when we see Evita sort of taking on her aunt's role in the community, as again, we sort of wrap everything up. I think that the way they used Evita here was pretty solid. I like that she's sort of taken on the role of her aunt. And, I think killing off the aunt was a smart idea earlier in the season, as it gave Evita more to do, and they were sort of in a way redundant characters before. It gave her a stronger position that wasn't just about being Tyrone's girlfriend, who I always struggled with her character because of that, because it just felt like, oh, she's the thing in the way of Tyrone and Tandy getting together, and I was like, it's inevitable that Tyrone and Tandy will get together. Why would I invest in Evita as a character? So I think giving her this other stuff to do was interesting. She actually had an important part to play in winning the battle and stuff this week. And then, of course, we got a good amount of stuff for Bridget as she was sort of finding herself and finding her middle place and dealing with stuff with her boyfriend and her anger and sort of, I guess, trying to wrap up the Mayhem storyline. Now, let's talk about Mayhem in general, though, because I do feel like Mayhem was a sort of a misstep this season. They ended last season on such a interesting, cool note for me, with setting up Mayhem as this cool, horrific character, and then it was the season of Mayhem it was supposed to be. And ultimately, I felt like it was a missed opportunity. She ended up just being someone who kind of throws people around and is sort of angry. I don't feel like the performance was bad, but I don't feel like they gave her much to do with the character, and that because it was freeform, he wasn't quite as violent as I think he could have been. I don't think he was really scary. He's just someone who had strength. And I think they almost made her seem like ghostly at the end of last season. Again, I'm not a comic reader, so I didn't know what the abilities were. But ultimately, he was not really the focus. He was at once not focused on enough and focused on too much given the quality of things they gave her. Given that it was supposed to be the Mayhem season, I feel like she really fell in the background, but at the same time, we spent a lot of time with her dealing with her demons that I didn't care about that much. Especially once Andre came into the picture, I found him so much more fascinating and interesting than Mayhem ever was. And that leads into my biggest issue with the series right now, which they actually do seem to be addressing going forward. And that's that basically everybody besides Tyrone and Tandy I felt like was expendable from this show. I think Tyrone and Tandy are phenomenal. I think the actors are phenomenal. Their chemistry, their interactions, their dialogue delivery, the dialogue they give them is great. Everybody else, I don't really care about. I could not see Bridget again and I wouldn't care. I could not see Tyrone's family again and I wouldn't care. I'm growing to like Evita, but like, again, I would be okay not having her around or having her around less. So the idea that they're going off on a new journey to new places and that it's going to be about them on the road, that's really intriguing to me, because that means that it's like, okay, because we did, I mean, the ending montage here with great music as usual, really did wrap up everyone. We have the priest going into the church and wrapping that up. It really did wrap up each of the individual pieces and all the dead ends. And I do think that one of the strengths of the season is that they got me to really care and be interested in the more mystical aspect of the show. At first, I was definitely hesitant about all this stuff because personally, I felt like season one, it's like, oh, and a science experiment goes wrong, they get superpowers, but most of the things are sort of grounded, and it felt like it was serious and grounded. And then this season went so into the crazy mystical gods and beings and deities and stuff like that, and crossroads. At first, I struggled with that, but I think the more they went into it, the more they really made it core to every episode, the more I was able to sort of relax and accept the world that they were showing me, and grow to connect with it more. So I think this season really excelled at world building, and I think it was really Tandy's show this season, as she struggled more than anybody, and I think she did a fantastic job. But again, I feel like the minor characters, the side characters, I didn't really ever fully connect with. So I'm excited to see what happens as they go forward. We still have Tyrone, and we still have mystical elements that can easily bring in any of these side characters back. We can still have Tyrone, teleport back here, or whatever you want the terminology to be. But ultimately, I think that there's so much more they can do if these two characters just facing off new opponents, facing off new worlds. I think that this season was a step above last season, especially as far as the action goes. I think that they are finding their footing there a little bit better, and I think that they were able to be more of a superhero show this season. And I think that having a real villain, having high stakes, that really worked well for it. That said, 2 seasons in, I do still think the show is a little too slow, a little too ponderous at times. Maybe that's just kind of what the show is, but I think that it could benefit from a little bit of a pickup in pace and a little bit of more, higher drama, as opposed to constantly being in people's minds and things like that. I think that has worked well, but I think that it works better when you spread it out a little bit more than they did this season. And personally, I think that slow-paced stuff also connects with Tyrone and Tandy's relationship development. Like, as cute as it was, really, honestly, them ending holding hands, which is a small thing but meant a lot, I still feel like, 2 seasons in, I'd like there to have been a little bit more progression in this area. The show was billed as like a superhero romance, and I understand they don't want to rush into things, but I feel like by the end of season 2, we could have gotten a kiss or something. I really like these two. I'm excited to see them, on screen together all the time, hopefully next season. A lot more of them interacting and not having their own separate storylines. The show and the characters are better when they're together. I'm excited to see a potentially radical new take next season as they go on the road. I don't know if they'll, go to a few different places. They'll stop somewhere. They mentioned this whole thing about women on the beach. Again, I just watched the episode, haven't been able to read Easter egg hunts and comic booky stuff. So let me know if you know stuff in the comments below. But overall, I thought it was a fun episode. I think it's a solid season. Still love these characters, and I'm looking forward to next year. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What did you think of this season versus last season? What are you looking forward to in the future? If they walked away from some of these side characters, how much would you miss them? Do you feel like the show needs them? Is there anyone in particular that you really connected with? Anything you disagree with me on? Let me know. I can comment back. I'd love to get a discussion going, hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're doing okay.